for me is I still carry his voice in the back of my head. When you face a difficult decision, I can hear him. I can hear him urging you to do what's right, not what's easy.
He was just an incredible human being. Above all else, he thought about other people before thinking about himself.
But I still remember his advice, and he just said, "Wayne, just be honest." And I still remember that, 50 years later, I still remember that advice.
I present myself to you as a mayor for everyone. A mayor for the neighborhoods, for downtown, for business, for labor, for the powerless and the powerful, for the left, the right, and everyone in between. For everyone. I will be a mayor who tackles things head on and moves the bar forward. I will be your mayor. Thank you very much.
I remember our parents, particularly my dad, commenting that that son of his, Edwin, was going to go some places. You know, he was bright. It created lots of hopes and aspirations, and people could dream that if they wanted to, perhaps that opportunity might be possible because somebody else who looked like them have done it already.
Well, he was the first Asian American mayor of any big-time city. And especially given the history of San Francisco with the large Asian population and the large Chinatown, and really the contributions of Chinese Americans and other Asian Americans to the development, the prosperity, the culture, the history of San Francisco. That was really a milestone. It really showed that Chinese Americans, Asian Americans had really arrived.
He was the kind of politician I most admired because he was doing it for the right reasons. He wasn't doing it to boost his ego or fill some kind of hole in his own psyche. He was doing it because he wanted to serve. He brought decency and love to his service, and I want people to remember that, not only what he did, but what he stood for, what he meant.
He dedicated his life to the people of the city. He loved San Francisco and everything that it represented, and he really gave his life for San Francisco.
Edwin Ma Lee was born on May 5, 1952 in Seattle, Washington. He was the fourth of 6 children. His father, Gok Sui Lee, immigrated from China in 1937. After serving in the U.S. Air Force in World War II, he married Pansy Chan and settled in Seattle. Ed's father ran a small diner. His mother helped at the restaurant and also worked as a seamstress. Struggling to get by, the Lee family lived in the Yesler Terrace public housing project.
You know, we were latchkey kids where father would go off working by the time we got home from school, and then mom was just coming back from her seamstress job. And there was a couple hours in between there where we were trying to prepare dinner ourselves, you know, but having said all that, we had, you know, small means and limited opportunities back then. We, as kids, I remember having a happy childhood.
To us, it wasn't that big a deal, you know, because we knew no worse, you know. So just family members and being, you know, having family dinners together, you know, and then we started going to church together. So I don't think it was that great of an impact to me until later on in life. Then you realize that, wow, you had nothing.
We never got an allowance type of thing, so we had to kind of make up our own gifts. And so the story that Ed likes to tell, which is very true, we would pick things that were used gifts. Sometimes it would be somebody's other shoe, and we'd wrap it up. We didn't even have wrapping paper. We'd wrap it up in newspaper and maybe put a stick-on bow on it. But we wanted things under the tree. And it would be hilarious, and we would just laugh and laugh. And so our Christmas was full of not new things, not new toys, not new presents, but a lot of laughter. And that's why I think Ed liked to laugh. He liked his corny jokes. That fulfilled him, I mean, in that regard, right? He likes to laugh, and even though sometimes it wasn't a situation that was funny, I think it made him comfortable.
Going to the local rec center was a cheap way to have fun. Ed loved playing sports with his brothers and friends, and despite his small size, usually beat them in everything.
I mean, even though I was taller, we loved basketball. I could never guard him. He was too quick for me. If I got up close to him, if I backed off, he would shoot over me. And then in tennis, we both learned tennis at the same time at the Parks Recreation Building, you know, free, cheap lessons. And of course, he was twice as good as me.
His love for playing sports continued through adulthood.
We played touch football 2 or 3 times a year, Thanksgiving, New Year's. Ed was my quarterback. He had the best arm on the team. So he was just an all-around good athlete.
In the late 50s, the Lees moved to the Beacon Hill area of Seattle, a diverse working-class neighborhood. The 8-member family squeezed into a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. While Ed loved to joke and play, he was also the most studious of the children. For him, the bathroom became his sanctuary.
Because the quiet in over there, the other kids come back, they're so noisy when I turn on TV, and then play music or talk in the phone, you know, so noisy. That's why I go to bathroom to study.
It was his mother who also made sure Ed and the rest of the kids went to Faith Bible Church on Sunday.
My mom always made sure we were dressed properly. It wasn't casual. It was kind of a strict church. But that was good because it gave you sort of the foundation of respect for the church, you know, and even at a young age, and even for me, I think it just all gave us that spiritual foundation that we needed.
Back in the 60s, Faith Bible was basically a large 2-story house. Today, it's been renovated into a modern sanctuary. Some of the longtime members recall how the church influenced Ed.
The key to Ed's success, no matter where, that the people that surrounded him were really nice people. And that's why Ed was that type of person, that he was a people person, that he reached out to people. And growing up, that's the kind of people he knew from his Sunday school teachers and from Vacation Bible School that we used to have, from fellowship time, that people, the teachers that he had or mentors that he had were those that were loving and caring and really interested in making a difference in that young person's life.
I did have on occasion a chance to speak to him in his later years, and I could see how much he has grown in the Lord, and that was the root of his compassion for others.
Faith Bible Church also played a big role in helping the family when Ed's father died of a heart attack at age 47. Ed was just 17 at the time.
He was trying his best, even as a young person, to be strong and make sure that his siblings were cared for, that we were okay. Everybody has their moment, and I distinctly remember that a few days after the service, or perhaps as we were waiting for the service, that we heard a very loud cry coming from downstairs, and it was Edwin.
And he knew, that it would be, even then, hard for my mom to raise us, even though the other older kids had gone off and started their careers or paths, that kind of thing. But he always, I think, had a concern for my mom to make sure that she was going to be taken care of. And I think he knew that he felt like it was a responsibility to do that.
Ed also felt a strong responsibility not to let his father down and studied harder. At Franklin High School, he was voted senior class president, graduated with honors, and became the first in his family to earn a four-year college scholarship. Music was also important to Ed. He and jazz pianist Dean Tsutakawa were classmates in middle school and at Franklin High School. The two sang in the choir together and traveled to Europe their senior year.
We had an award-winning choir. We had the best choir in the state of Washington. So, we did concerts with the big choir, but when we went, then when we went to Italy and stuff, and maybe about 8 or 10 of us, and we'd go to an outdoor restaurant or something, and we would sing. As a little ensemble. I'm not a solo singer, I'm an ensemble singer. I could sing in a choir, and so could Ed. And so, it was great, being outdoors and singing, doing a little, just for the locals, That was an amazing thing. But Ed was always a good student, too. I mean, we had the same class together, and he'd get A's and I'd get C's. He loved all kinds of music. He was very appreciative, of mellow music, jazz, particularly rhythm and blues and soul music. Things like Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. That was just his all-time favorite song. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I tell you what's going on. I think that it helped him balance, He took a lot of meaning, personal meaning. Music, part of the function. I mean, commercially, people are always trying to make money on music. But really, the function of music is to bring people together. Because he had family up here, he'd come to town every year to visit family, and he would always look me up. He would come and find me and bring his brothers out and say, where's Deems playing? And he'd come and hang out at the club, and he was just so into it. He just loved it. And I think he found inspiration in a lot of the music.
Ed would continue his education at Bowdoin, a small, nearly all-white liberal arts college in Maine. The school was looking to diversify its enrollment, while Ed was looking to learn in a new, intimate environment.
Bowdoin College was kind of like my monastery. I'd never been on the East Coast before. It allowed me to really engage academically in everything that I wanted to learn without limits. I was prepared to change the world.
Ed was one of just 5 Chinese American students on campus. When asked by some of his more arrogant classmates how he got to the school, Ed would prank them by saying he was related to martial arts star Bruce Lee.
And would they have known? I mean, it's kind of like that, right? I mean, it could possibly be, right? Might not be his brother, but it could be a distant relative, so you wouldn't want to mess with him, right?
Ed was not related to Bruce Lee, but was co-captain of the tennis team. He studied Russian and Mandarin and graduated summa cum laude with a degree in government and legal studies. Among Ed's professors was David Vail.
But Ed stood out in a couple of ways. I think one was just a tremendous intellectual curiosity, and the other was a sort of quiet, understated brilliance.
During the early 70s, the Vietnam War protests were in full swing, and Ed got involved.
What's striking about Ed is that beyond the negativity of the anti-war movement, that is, protesting against something, he was really looking for an affirmative way to be involved. And so he initially became involved and later became president of the United Nations Club. And the emphasis was on positive agendas and on inclusiveness as opposed to the critique, you might say, of the Vietnam War.
During Ed's time at Bowdoin, Bell says you could already see his future style as a politician taking shape.
I think it was an opportunity for him to hone his leadership style. And I think we can see in retrospect some of the really important features of that were also characteristic at Bowdoin: the inclusiveness, the search to bring people into the dialogue, and maybe most important of all, his, what shall I call it, egolessness. It was evident that he wasn't in it for himself. And maybe I would add his sense of humor. I said before that he made class discussions fun when he was a discussion leader, but I think he always saw the irony in situations, not taking himself or the situation too seriously.
After graduating, Ed went to study in Hong Kong on a fellowship. There he would meet his future wife, Anita Lam.
They met in a language lab in Hong Kong, and my mom was his Chinese tutor. And through that relationship, I guess he also helped to improve her English.
Ed originally wanted to work for the State Department as a Sino-Soviet diplomat, but while staying with his grandfather in Hong Kong, saw the impoverished conditions many people were living in.
And I was kind of the privileged academic that was involved in their lives, and I realized that maybe this was not my calling on the international level. Maybe I had to go back and help society, so I applied to law school from Hong Kong at the time, and this place called Berkeley paid attention to my application.
While still going to school, he began working as a clerk for a newly formed organization called the Asian Law Caucus, a group of young lawyers who fought for the rights of low-income Asian immigrants.
I get hired in the spring of 1979 along with another attorney, Larry Yee, but we have no money to pay Ed. And then this, as it goes out, I think it was Sam Yee, who was then the new executive director, and somebody else had these great ideas. Go, well, Bill and Larry, why don't you kick in some of your money to help Ed out? And so, we do it. And, out of my $640 take home, which I remember, I kicked over, I think, $125, $150 to Ed for like about 3-4 months. I never told my mom, she would have killed me. So we did this. And it was just like all part because it was important. Ed was making a lot of sacrifices. He just needed money to eat, pay some minimal rent, and he actually had another side job just to help him make ends meet. What that reflected was a lot of sacrifice and commitment on Ed's part. And I will never forget that.
He understood the community in which he served. And the extraordinary thing about him is that a guy that bright could have easily gone into a lucrative legal career, but he didn't do that. He volunteered in the community while he was a law student, and then remained at the Asian Law Caucus for 12 years.
I still remember him 40 years ago as a lover of the community and helping out the poor, tenants, even garment workers, Vincent Chin, immigration, the list goes on and on. And that's how I saw him, as a brother fighting for the community.
One of Ed's greatest achievements was getting the city to provide much-needed improvements for Ping Yun, the largest and oldest public housing project in Chinatown.
The tenants trusted Ed because I think he was one of them. I mean, he recognized their situation because he lived that himself.
I saw him in action every day. I saw him in all kinds of venues, putting on a suit and going to court, testifying before the Housing Commission, but also hand-holding and comforting tenants who were scared.
These tenements were rife with crime, no hot water, lots of complaints, but tenants were very afraid about losing their housing, so they didn't want to complain, they didn't want to make waves. But after months of working with the tenants, an incident happened where one of the young women who's a tenant in the projects went to use the elevator. Well, the elevator is broken, as typically it was. So in climbing the darkened stairwell, she was attacked and sexually assaulted in the stairwell and dragged and thrown off the balcony. And to make matters worse, the perpetrators went down, saw that she wasn't dead, dragged her up and threw her off again. Well, that was a tipping point.
In response, Ed delayed taking his bar exam for a year so he could organize the first ever rent strike against the San Francisco Housing Authority. The city eventually gave in and paid for the improvements.
That was a pivotal moment, a defining moment that Ed was a part of, and without his months of organizing work would have never happened, I think.
Ed not only fought for Chinatown, he would get married there. On June 20th, 1980, he and Anita exchanged wedding vows at the Salvation Army Church on Powell Street.
My mom is gorgeous. She's gorgeous today, and in her youth was, beautiful. And she really could have dated anybody, I feel. But I think what my dad had on everybody was just his ability to make her crack up.
In 1982, their first daughter, Tanya, was born. 3 years later came Brianna.
He was really just fun all the time. Every time he came home, it was really delightful whenever he came home. It was sort of time for lightheartedness and just having fun, even though he usually came home pretty late at night.
My mom did a lot of the heavy lifting of raising our family when we were young because my dad was so busy. I think, we would really want him to come home for dinner, and he would say, "Oh, I'll be home by 8 o'clock," and it was normal for 8 o'clock to mean midnight. It was hard. It was really hard for me, and I could tell it was hard for my mom too.
While about a third of San Francisco's population is Asian American, it had been greatly underrepresented in city politics. But that began to change in the late 80s when Mayor Art Agnos took notice of Ed and hired him to head up a new whistleblower division.
And I knew when I became mayor that it was no longer going to be sufficient to recognize the Chinese American community by coming to Chinese New Year's dinner parties, saying Gong Hai Fat Choi, and taking a few pictures and leaving. That was the old world. And the new world that was represented by Ed Lee was we had to be far more proactive in empowering the Chinese community.
And we all knew that it would not be long before there would be Chinese officials elected in every category. And believe me, from the time of the late 70s to the present day, that's evidenced itself. None more dramatic than Ed Lee's ascendancy to one of America's most significant cities, San Francisco.
Over the next 2 decades, Ed would hold several jobs at City Hall, including Director of Public Works.
Starting when I was 14, 15, he took me out every Saturday to go clean up garbage on the streets and paint over graffiti, which was kind of his thing because he was at DPW at the time. So Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, he would wake me up. I would not want to get up. He would sort of give me the orange vest and all of the paint roller tools and all that stuff, and he'd be like, "We're gonna go out and paint over graffiti."
When he was city administrator, he kept his trunk was full of brooms and sweepers and anything you needed to beautify the city of San Francisco. And then on top of that, after work, after his day job, he would go meet with merchants associations, neighborhood associations, business leaders, just to know what was going on in San Francisco and how could he help.
Ed would also help Kelly's future husband, Harlan, propose.
So I fly and meet them in Hong Kong, thinking I'm just hanging out with Ed and Harlan and Anita. And when we get there, they have picked out the most perfect hotel room for Harlan and I to stay at the Intercontinental overlooking Victoria Harbor. And they set up the best place for Harlan and I to go have dinner. And that's where Harlan proposed. And it's not like Harlan knew where to go in Hong Kong. It was Ed Lee telling him where all the best places to go.
Ed would serve as a groomsman at their wedding. He would also officiate the wedding of his chief of staff, Jason Elliott.
He was the kind of guy who actually truly cared about our families, about our pets, about our vacations. And it was really easy to spend time with him because he was so genuine.
In December of 2010, Ed was with his family in Hong Kong, celebrating his second term as city administrator. when his name came up as a possible replacement for San Francisco Mayor Gavin Newsom, who was stepping down to become Lieutenant Governor.
We were in a hot bath, and the women were in one room and he and I were in another room. And I kiddingly said, "Hey, there's nothing to hide between us now. Tell me, do you really want to do this? Do you really, really want to do this?" And he just said, "You know, these opportunities don't come by." And he felt more of a responsibility to do it as opposed to a strong desire for himself to do it, you know, and that's what motivated him.
He was very, very knowledgeable about every aspect of the city, since he had been the chief administrative officer of the city, Department of Public Works. He had been the purchaser for the city. He had been part and head of human rights for the city. He had sued the city and won in multiple categories. He knew more about this city than Newsom, Brown, Agnos, Jordan, and Feinstein combined.
As I hold the office of
Mayor for the City and County of San Francisco.
Mayor for the City and County of San Francisco.
Ed got the interim job with the understanding he would not run for mayor, but a few months later, he had changed his mind after being encouraged by Chinatown community activist Rose Pack, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, and his longtime friend, Willie Brown.
I drew the assignment to go talk to Ed Lee at the end to say, even though you said you were not going to run, you got to run. By then, all of the people who wanted to be mayor, many of them had been attacking Ed Lee. They had been accusing him of all kinds of things. And if you ever make Ed Lee angry, Ed Lee will respond. Not like many of us with words, he does it with deeds. Ed Lee responded to all of his critics by running.
During his time as interim mayor, Ed was able to get tax breaks for tech companies like Twitter if they would stay in San Francisco and help revitalize the rundown mid-market area. His ability to get that passed quickly impressed billionaire tech investor Ron Conway.
You know how to get things done, and I think you should run. And he goes, "Well, you know, people think I'm not going to run." I said, "Hey, I don't know if there were backroom deals or something," which really insulted him that I even said that. But I said, "You're the best qualified person. You know how to get things done. And if you run, I'll work my tail off to get you elected."
You know, I'm thinking about endorsing Ed Lee for mayor.
Ed Lee, isn't he just the interim mayor, though?
Yeah, but he's got to keep on going. He's too good to step down.
Conway did not just provide money for Ed's campaign, but music, as he got Twitter co-founder Biz Stone to produce a video that went viral. Ed Lee, Too Legit to Quit.
And I said, "Hey, Brian Wilson just won us the World Series. Why don't we get Brian Wilson?" And then MC Hammer is a good friend, so we said, let's get MC Hammer to do something. Let's get will.i.am to do something. And we brought tech celebrities too. We brought in Marissa Mayer and some other folks. Brian Wilson was the cornerstone of it, but MC Hammer was kind of the MC of this very entertaining video introducing Ed Lee, making a lot of fun of his mustache. It was about the stash. And that video got 500,000 views. Only 700,000 people live in San Francisco. That video got awards. Ed absolutely loved the video.
Ed was too legit to quit and easily won the election, earning a full 4-year term.
It was a really exciting time when he first became mayor of our city. And in fact, again, when I became a member of the Board of Supervisors and accompanied him on a trip to China, just how he was treated in China like a rock star. It was insane.
I think for many people, when they're taking a look at the first Asian American mayor, first Chinese mayor in San Francisco, it's important to say not only that he was that, but that he was also a great leader for the city. And he's not just an Asian American leader, he was the leader for San Francisco.
Incredibly proud, also trepidatious, because we were not a family that was used to being in the spotlight in politics. My dad was a behind-the-scenes guy. He never really sought public attention in that way. And so when he decided to run, I do believe to this day that's probably one of the bravest decisions he's ever made. Because he didn't want to run because he wanted to be in the spotlight. He wanted to run because he felt that he really could make a difference.
When Ed took office in 2011, the city was still reeling from the Great Recession, with unemployment around 10%. So he set out to create jobs any way he could.
I think the business of how he orchestrated bringing the tech world into San Francisco that has made this the most expensive town in the country, if not one of the most expensive in the world, but at the same time, it eliminated virtually unemployment. It raised the level of income for everybody in this city. Those are spectacular achievements for any mayor, period. It comes with a lot of problems because obviously when you do what was done to bring all this wealth into the city, it dramatically demonstrates those who can't participate in the wealth. But Ed Lee had not finished his job. I guarantee you, before Ed Lee would have departed us in 2020, all of San Francisco would be reflective of his kind of achievement.
So there are people out there who say that Ron Conway had too much influence on Ed Lee. I was a friend of Ed Lee's first, and nobody really had influence on Ed Lee. Ed Lee had goals that he wanted to meet, and anyone who would help him meet his goals was his friend.
Another friend was Salesforce founder Mark Benioff, whose tower has become the biggest symbol of the tech industry's presence in San Francisco. Benioff was looking to contribute to a cause, so Conway set up a meeting with Mayor Lee.
They had never met. So we met at Ella's Cafe, which is Mark Benioff's little greasy spoon diner on California Street. And Ed told Mark about his belief that middle school students, if we can help them more, we will help society more in San Francisco. And that gave birth to the Salesforce Foundation Middle School Program that has donated over $30 million just to the middle schools in SF. And Ed Lee loved that. Everyone thought the Warrior Arena was his signature. No, his signature was about middle school kids.
The mayor didn't just focus on working with tech companies. He created the first city department to deal with the homeless and built navigation centers, places that not only provide room and board, but case managers to connect those in need to various health and public services. Having grown up poor, affordable housing was a subject close to his heart. In 2014, he pledged to create or renovate the largest number of housing units by any mayor in recent San Francisco history, 30,000 in 6 years, with 1/3 of those as permanently affordable.
When he made that pledge, no one believed it. And guess what? 2020 is right around the corner, and we are right on schedule. That is the fortitude of Ed Lee. Saw a problem and dealt with it.
Through RAD, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program, thousands of low-income public housing units, including Ping Yuen, were renovated and had their operation transferred to community-based nonprofits. Many of those residents have now returned to homes they can be proud of.
Thank you.
So not only are the buildings much more livable, but there's a tenant-focused, community-based community-based support network that's in these buildings that really tries to fulfill Ed Lee's vision of, you're not a public housing resident, you're a San Francisco resident, right? And giving the dignity to people that they deserve.
While the mayor had an easygoing image, he was firm on his beliefs.
We are a sanctuary city, now, tomorrow, forever.
Ed was also a strong supporter of equal rights and the LGBTQ community.
In our America, people are equal, no matter race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation.
That issue became personal when his daughter Tanya came out as being gay.
His response was, okay, thank you for telling me. I think at the time he just wanted me to explore who I was. And so, he was receptive and said, thank you for telling me, thank you for letting me know. It was hard, I lost a lot of important relationships. But I do remember when I started to date my current partner and I called him to tell him about that, he fully supported me. He told me he loved me and that he was really excited to meet Elaine and has been supportive of us from day one.
During his almost 7 years as mayor, he displayed a demeanor rarely if ever seen in this office.
I think there is this common notion that you have to be this loud, boisterous, always strong, always yelling, at the top of the soapbox kind of person to succeed in politics. And what I love about Ed is that he really wasn't that person. He was this person who was very low key, but who had a very, very strong vision about what he wanted to accomplish.
He yelled at me maybe only once or twice in my entire time working for him, from the day he took office to the day he passed away. But it wasn't getting yelled at that motivated us, or avoiding getting yelled at. What motivated us was not wanting to disappoint him, because he had worked his whole life to get to a place like being mayor where he could really make that impactful change, and we didn't want to let him down.
The mayor, despite, again, him being so nice, he still was able to accomplish a lot, but never in that sort of bulldog way. It was just, you would see him going on the street, painting graffiti, picking up litter. You would see him doing something. So that just motivated you to want to do something. It wasn't necessarily that he had to, be super stern with you or anything like that. It was just watching him and you think, gosh, if the mayor can do that, I should be doing something too.
People who are leading San Francisco, not only now, but in the years to come, might stop and ask themselves, what would Ed Lee do? Maybe make up a little bracelet which says that, because that will help keep them on the right track. They might have disagreed with Ed, they might have had a different idea than he did, but nobody could doubt his deep humanity, his decency, and his love for San Francisco.
Ed Lee had an acceptance in every neighborhood. Ed Lee had an acceptance in every ethnicity. Ed Lee had an acceptance all over. And then he had one more quality that many of the other mayors didn't have. He had the respect of the bureaucrats who run the city, because he had really been one.
He kept that respect despite his corny sense of humor.
His jokes were generally not funny. His jokes often did not make sense. His jokes were occasionally crude. But I will tell you, he entertained himself. When he would laugh at his own joke, then we would laugh at him laughing. He thought we thought the joke was funny. It wasn't that. It wasn't that at all.
Every time he walked into a room that was full of tension for whatever reason, like he knew how to cut it immediately, and just like he would just tell an offhand joke and then the tension would just break.
You would never see him ever look down on people, and he would joke that it's because of his height. But I think it is that approachable kind of nature that he had, where he was just a common guy who had this amazing opportunity to lead, and he did it with a lot of grace.
The mayor also had a sense of fun and compassion. On November 15, 2013, the mayor turned San Francisco into Gotham City for a day, as cancer survivor Miles Scott fulfilled his Make-A-Wish dream as Bat Kid. Miles was given the key to the city for foiling criminals like the Penguin and the Riddler.
Bat Kid, you won our hearts with your story and with your courage. And while we wish we can erase the pain that you and your family have experienced, we hope this is the day of magic and that you'll remember this forever. Bat Kid forever in San Francisco.
In 2015, he easily won election to a second term as mayor. But there was talk if Hillary Clinton was elected president, Ed would be named to her cabinet as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Ed Lee would have been someone that I certainly would have considered for anything, because his humanity, his decency is in short supply in Washington these days. He was passionate about housing. He knew a lot about it. He'd been, as a young law student, helping to sue the Housing Authority because they wouldn't provide services that people needed. So he's exactly the kind of person that should be helping to make policy for the entire nation.
As mayor, he kept company with some of the most powerful people in the world, but never lost touch with the average citizen. People like Jeannie Kim, a single mom who operates Sam's Diner 7 days a week. Located near City Hall, the diner became one of Ed's favorite places to eat and hold morning meetings.
And when he meets someone, he would say, hey, you need to go to Sam's and have breakfast. They have homemade corned beef and hash. And when he would do interviews with all the reporters, he would stop here in front of Sam's and said, have you checked out the food here? They have great coffee. You gotta try their local moco or Korean tacos. You know, he would just highlight different things and just support, small businesses like ourselves.
Ed also never forgot his friends. Playing golf was a way to stay in touch with them and get away from the grind. Andrew's son played with him for more than 25 years.
And it became a form of both exercise, decompression, and still fit the qualities that he enjoyed about being with people. Ed was a very competitive person. He was always competitive on the golf course. He enjoyed that aspect of the game, but he also understood that the game itself was very Zen-like.
When he was city administrator, Ed renovated the Harding Park Clubhouse. It was also at Harding he made a hole-in-one on the par 3 third hole. But it came when he was playing hooky from work.
So he managed to get a hole-in-one, but he couldn't tell anybody about it because he really believed his devotion to public service was that he wanted to be there every day for the citizens and residents of San Francisco. He would work Saturdays, he would work Sundays, and he didn't want anybody to think that he'd left the office. So that was the one day that he got the hole-in-one out here.
Let's go, Giants! Wow, how thrilled we are to have our World Series champions back home in San Francisco!
Mayor Lee was San Francisco's #1 sports fan, and during his time in office, the Giants won 2 World Series. The city hosted the America's Cup. Super Bowl 50 was played at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, and the Warriors won 2 NBA championships.
One nation right here celebrating. Glad to be here.
He grew up in Seattle, falling in love with the team that I worked for, the Seattle Supersonics, who won the NBA championship in 1979, and that's where he fell in love with the game, same way I fell in love with the game, which was certainly part of our connection. So the idea that he could be a major part in bringing an NBA team back to San Francisco, to him, I think, was really important on a personal as well as business level for the city.
The mayor loved shooting baskets, so he had a special fondness for Warriors star guard Steph Curry.
He was obviously a big fan, but he was very genuine about being around for things that mattered, things that I was involved in, not just on the court, but off the court too.
In what he called his legacy project, Mayor Lee brought the Warriors back to San Francisco and got the go-ahead for them to build their new home, the Chase Center.
Well, the Chase Center wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Mayor Lee. I mean, he really took the initiative to come to the Warriors to say, I think I have a plan. Through the process, there were points where the project could have died, project could have taken a much different direction, but each time we got to one of those points, he inserted himself in the process and did whatever it took to keep us on track to open in San Francisco in 2019.
Family was always a priority for Mayor Lee, so in November of 2017, he flew back to his hometown of Seattle to celebrate the start of the holiday season with his relatives. His sister remembers he insisted on visiting a local botanical garden despite a steady rain.
Anyways, we get there and we get inside and he is just enjoying every minute of the show. You're walking through the gardens, it's all dark at night. It's raining pretty heavily, and he is just enjoying it like a kid in a candy store. He's walking with my mom, and every different scenery that came, he would say, "Hey, let's take a picture here, Mom." And I was the chosen photographer, so I was taking a lot of pictures. And if you look at the pictures, it's usually just him and my mom, and the rest of us were taking the picture. We were like the photographer, but he enjoyed it so much, and I even told my husband, I said, gosh, he's just like a kid in a candy store. He's like, he must not be able to do these kinds of things and in such a low-key environment. But they had the best time.
It would be his last trip home. On December 11th, after watching the Warriors game on TV, Mayor Lee and his wife went grocery shopping at their local Safeway. There he would suffer a fatal heart attack.
Hi, I'm in charge of Safeway on Monterey Boulevard. We have a customer in the...
I'll just keep you on the phone until the paramedics get there, okay? But they are en route, okay?
Okay, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm almost 100% sure that I think it's Ed Lee, Mayor Ed Lee.
It was a profoundly painful, shocking, numbingly shocking night at the hospital. The doctors, the nurses, the EMTs, they did everything they possibly could have and more. A heroic effort to try to revive him, but there was nothing that could be done.
When I got there, I was driving to the hospital. He had already passed, and when I got there, I got to the door and then I just broke down. I think it shocked many people because they'd never really seen me cry like that. The hospital, it was just, they had this American flag over him. And I think I had a few hours to just cry and cry. And then by 5 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call that, Tanya, Brianna, and Anita needed help in just like thinking through because they were completely shocked, just the processing of next steps and what to do.
And then I got the call at about 1 from Manny when we were trying to make arrangements, and he had just said Ed didn't make it. And, it was hard. It was really hard. We were so, my mind, of course, went back to the time where he just came up and we just saw him. But as sad as it was and as hard as it was, we knew that, at least I knew, our first priority was to tell our mom. That was the hardest thing.
I asked the Lord, why don't you take me better, take her. He's still young. I asked the Lord so many times, take me better, I don't know right now.
Ed Lee was just 65 years old. Thousands would come by to pay their respects as his body lay in state at City Hall. 2 days later, a celebration of his life was held.
We live in a time of growing narcissism, a time of sort of rank polarization, under-moralization, and then there was Ed Lee. Decent, honorable, humble human being who always wanted to do the right thing, who never wanted to take other folks down.
Ed's election brought a tremendous pride to this community, and rightly so. San Francisco's history in prior centuries is marked by prejudice against the Chinese community. In prior centuries, from mistreatment by the police to restrictive deeds in real estate, San Francisco was not a friendly place for the Asian and Chinese culture and people. However, years go on, times change, the community fights for its rights, and things improve. In 2011, when Ed became mayor, this community showed the city that indeed a Chinese American can reach the pinnacle of public service in this city.
The following week, a candlelight vigil was held for him in Chinatown.
We will forever remember him as a loving father, husband, son, uncle, and friend who brought us laughter and light for so many years.
A few months later, in a private ceremony, the Warriors' Steph Curry surprised the Lee family with a customized jersey and an NBA championship ring.
Thoughts and prayers, obviously, you know how much Mayor Lee meant to the whole Bay Area, obviously San Francisco. Me especially, he supported every endeavor I had, whether it was here in Oakland or San Francisco. He always came and showed his face and supported, and that meant a lot. So much, yeah. That meant a lot, and obviously I know how much he helped impact the new arena. I know he'd be proud of what that's going to be when it's accomplished and finished for the whole Bay Area and specifically San Francisco. So I want to thank you and your family for that. And we have a token of appreciation for you. Sorry, yeah, the jersey, obviously.
Oh, wow. Cool.
His legacy has been remembered in other ways. The Chinese Education Center in Chinatown has been renamed the Edwin and Anita Lee Newcomer School.
Excuse me if I get a little emotional. Oftentimes my mom asks me to speak for her because it's too hard, and we still miss my dad so much, but he would be so proud of this renaming. Both of my parents have been strong advocates for creating opportunities for immigrants to thrive here in San Francisco and across the nation. We are humbled and grateful to have our family name associated with you all today. Thank you very much.
3, 2, 1.
At Sam's Diner, a plaque now marks his favorite table.
It was our way of saying thank you, and we want to remember him. It's almost been a year, but it's hard.
At his high school alma mater in Seattle, the first Edwin Lee scholarships were awarded last May.
He wanted to inspire Franklin High School students to reach their full potential and dreams and to lead a life of leadership and service for others.
A member of the school's Hall of Honor, Ed Lee wrote, "Live your lives boldly. Keep the doors open for others." Fittingly, his portrait hangs between the two doors leading to the school's auditorium, where a memorial service was held for him.
Even in death, Mayor Lee was keeping doors open for everybody as he welcomed people into his own memorial even. And his leadership is such the embodiment of the best of Franklin that we're in discussions about potentially renaming our auditorium for him, the very auditorium in which he presides over the open doors. We think that's just a wonderful message, and we believe he's actively continuing to inspire and mentor us.
His gravesite is on a hillside in Colma, but as an organ donor, part of Ed Lee literally lives on.
Mayor Lee donated his corneas and his tissues so individuals can gain sight, and as well as for the tissues, they can be used in many different ways. Some of the most common ways we're used to hearing is for back injuries, sports injuries, burn tissues as well, or some reconstructive tissues as well. His legacy will live on, and many others for a long time to come. A tissue donor on average can potentially heal up to 75 lives. So when you think about the legacy that he can have within that, that's really amazing.
Ed Lee left us far too soon, but the impact he had on his family, friends, and the city of San Francisco will never be forgotten.
He was just such a light, and he had this unique combination of fun and humor with this kind of incredible strength. And like I said, and a lot of people have said, he never sought the spotlight. He only sought to make things better.
Ed's favorite song of all time was Marvin Gaye's song, What's Going On? So we're going to play this in honor of my very dear friend Ed, and this is What's Going On. It's dedicated to the late mayor of San Francisco, Mr. Ed Lee. It goes like this.
Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying. Brother, there's far too many of you dying. You know you've got to find a way to bring some loving here today. Oh, Father, there's no need to escalate. You see, war is not the answer. It's only love can conquer hate. You know we've got to find a way. Bring some love in here today. A picket line and picket signs punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? I'll tell you what's going on.
Thank you very much.